Section 2.4, we're continuing to write equations of lines, except we're going to learn a new form today, and we're also going to use some different things. You're not always going to be given the point and the slope every time, okay? Or excuse me, you're not always going to be given the slope and the y-intercept every time, okay? But in this case, we're going to be using a point and the slope. Okay, so again, given the slope and the y-intercept, you can always write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. But you can also write the equation of a line in what we call point-slope form. Okay, point-slope form is right here. Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. Okay, so let's talk about where each one of these comes from. All right, so just like before in the other equations, this y and this x are just like the y and the x in y equals mx plus b. We don't put anything in for them. They're always going to be there, okay? So those are the original y and the x. Now, the x1 and the y1, these guys come from an ordered pair. Okay, so that's what those are coming from the ordered pair. So this is going to go in for x1. This guy right here is going to go in for y1. Okay, and then the slope is the same old thing as it is up in the slope-intercept form. The slope is m. Again, they're going to give this to you in this case to start. Okay, and then you're just going to plug in m in for the slope. All right, so now, how do I know when to use point-slope form? It's really actually fairly simple. The reason they call it point-slope form is because you're given a point and you're given a slope. Okay, that's why you're using point-slope form in that case. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples. Okay, it says here, write an equation given a point and a slope. So I'm going to label these the very first thing I do. Okay, so I know the slope is 3/5. This guy's going to be m. He's m. These guys, this ordered pair right here, negative 5, 2 is x1 and y1. Okay, and again, all I'm going to do now is substitute in. So y still becomes the same, minus y1 is 2, equals m, which is 3/5, parentheses, x, that stays the same, minus x1, which happens to be negative 5. Okay, now again, just like before, all right, just like before, two negatives are going to make a positive, so this is going to be y minus 2 equals 3/5 times x and plus 5. Okay, so now once you get to where you have this in point-slope form, and you've got this plugged in, now I want to get it in y-intercept, or slope-intercept form. Okay, so I want to get it to look like y equals mx plus b. So in order to do that, there's a couple things here that we're going to look to do. Okay, in order to do that, once I get to that point, I'm going to, so essentially what did I do here? I substitute first. Okay, second step, once I substitute, then I'm going to distribute, and I'll show you what you're going to do with that. Okay, I'm going to distribute the 3/5. Then, once I distribute, I'm going to get y by itself. So I'm going to essentially add or subtract, depending on whether it's positive or negative, obviously. Okay. All right, so that's kind of my three-step process here as I'm looking through once I get to this point. Okay. All right, so I'm going to distribute through. I distribute 3/5 times here, 3/5 times here. So this is still y minus 2 equals 3/5 times x is 3/5 x. All right, so 3/5 times 5. On your calculator, if you take 3/5 times 5, and then you hit math, enter, enter, it's going to give you a number, okay? Or 3/5 times 5 over 1. When you do that, 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times 1 is 5. Well, 15 divided by 5 then becomes 3. So this ends up being plus a 3 at the end, okay? And then the next step, once I distribute, was either add or subtract. I'm going to get rid of this 2. I want to get y by itself. And now y is going to equal 3/5 x and plus 5. I'm always going to end up with an equation in slope-intercept form at the end. I start using point-slope form, convert it to slope-intercept form. Okay? All right, let's take a look at the second example here now. Okay, so now, again, that's your m. This is x1, that's y1. So when I plug them in, x, and there's a mistake. Well, let's erase that. We don't want x. We're going to go y minus y1, which is -1, equals m, which is -3, times x minus x1, which is 7. Okay? This is going to be y and plus 1, because two negatives next to each other. Okay? Then I'm going to take my -3 and distribute it through. -3 times x is -3x. -3 times -7 is positive 21. Okay? Once I've gotten that, now I've got to add or subtract. In this case, I'm going to subtract because I want to get y by itself, so I'm going to subtract a 1 from each side. And now y is going to equal -3x and plus 20, where my slope is -3 and my y-intercept is 20. Okay? All right, so now you should be able to complete the first few problems here on Class Cake using a slope and a point.